welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Sometimes a Formula One podcast, sometimes a Jaime Alguersuari fan cast. How was your week going, Zach?
When you said to me before we hit record, like, hey, well, we're on this high, let's hit record. And I was like, this is a recipe for callbacks that were off air. I'm good. I'm all the better for finding out that Jaime Alguersuari is now a DJ. That's
not now. No? Has been for many years. That was the point.
How did he amass so many Instagram followers and a mere 200,000 listens on Spotify if he's been doing it for so many years? I thought he just started last week. That's harsh.
He knows people in high places. There's been a growing trend in the last few years, I would say, of us dropping in personal jokes, talking about something before we start recording, and then us making jokes that are just for us that I'm sure nobody gets. And we're referencing things that we talked about before we started recording. But it's a good time. And just like this show, it's a good time.
Yeah, well, look, we made what I would say, like a guiding principles change to this show a few years ago. Where probably during the Pando, the show's now for us. And we do the show for our enjoyment and also for the listeners' enjoyment, but also, I think, to make each other laugh and talk about Formula One. That Formula One provides the landscape of which our relationship can develop.
Exactly.
And that's really... And if Jaime Alguersuari wants to be a part of that, also... I'm not sure everybody listening would even know who Jaime Alguersuari was. He is a constant feature in our, especially the quizzes I write, because he's part of that group of Red Bull junior drivers who got to Formula One and then just went into the ether. That just disappeared. They raced for a season, and then there's another guy called Jamie who is now driving for you and who looks similar. And it just happened so fast.
Yeah. I was, for a while I was making on our YouTube channel this series of videos called, it was using the old Red Bull simulator videos that they would do to show a hot lap of a certain track. And I was just making fun of those stupid videos. And the one that's been in my mind that I've never made is Sebastian Vettel's hot lap of wherever, where... it turned out, I didn't know this, but they did the same track, but they got like 4 of their different drivers, like Sebastian Vettel, Jaime Alguersuari, what's that other guy's name? I can't think of him. I can picture his face, but I can't think of him. No. Another old, same era as Jaime Alguersuari, but in the junior Red Bull driver program. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All the different Red Bull drivers they had in the stable, they would all race the same track and talk through. So I was going to cut them all together and it would like intercut, and he would just change. He'd be like, now I'm Jaime Alguersuari. And they're all in different languages, so you could put whatever subtitles you want, which would have made it really fun. Anyway. One day, maybe one day. Well, we're here to talk about Formula One. We did a pre-season show where we told you everything we knew about Formula One, which is not much. But we've had a race since then, and we thought, look, the bug has bitten. And truly, after the first race, because I went into that race being like, oh man, I feel like I'm not enthused in the way I used to be about Formula One. But then after the race happened, I was re-enthused, not so much for the races as talking to you. I was like, I want to talk to Zach right now.
Great.
So nice. I'm glad that we're here doing a show because that's what we do. And back to the theme that we opened with. Is it because I know who all the Toro Rosso drivers are now? So were you perhaps thinking of Sebastian Bourdais? It was Sebastian Bourdais, and there was another one as well, but I can't think of the other guy's
Sebastian
name
Buemi?
But it was Buemi. That's the one I was trying to think of. Yes. All the
and
Sebastians.
Then fan favourite and favourite of ours, Jean-Eric Verne, Jev.
Jev, oh man, Jev. Wonder how he's going.
It's a hard class to emerge from, but just looking through this list, man, like Scott Speed, Sebastian Bourdais, Sebastian Buemi, Alguersuari, and then you get into the good ones: Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz Jr., Max Verstappen. Yes. Like, there's been more wins than misses, I would say, more recently. In the early days, they were mainly misses. No one was really getting into the Red Bull team. But then as Toro Rosso improved and became, AlphaTauri, their drivers moved to other teams.
You're very familiar with the funnel, the idea of the funnel. As we reached the bottom of the funnel, they were more concentrated. There was more concentrated talent, but also fewer entrants. Yes. Well, Zach, look, we had a race. I don't know what you actually want to talk about. We've got notes, things to talk about, but do we want to get straight into the race stuff, or do we want to go through some silly stuff? I don't really know where you want to go.
We've been doing silly stuff heaps. Let's go straight into the race.
Well, what happened in the race? Well, I don't know. Why don't you give me first impressions? Because, I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could talk about. One of the bigger...
Yeah, you go. What's the big one? Hit me with the bigger one.
Mercedes.
Ooh, you want to start with the losers, the shit guys.
Yes, exactly. Right. the shitholes. The thing with Mercedes, and the reason I think this is the biggest story, is not just the race, but what happened after the race. And bear in mind, this was the very first race of the year, out of a season with many, 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 many races. They showed up. They weren't that great. Okay, fine. I think Toto Wolff's reaction was... I think someone needs to check on Toto Wolff. I'm worried about him. His reaction, saying things like this was the worst day in motorsport ever, and just his whole vibe of like, this is basically the end of the world. He's a real doomer. And I worry for the year when that's the reaction after one race. I worry for the whole year for Mercedes when they're like, maybe we should throw this car in the bin. Maybe we need a new one. And Lewis Hamilton did the same thing, basically, is throwing the team under the bus and saying, well, I told them to make it better, and they didn't listen to me. Yeah. They made it worse. Idiots. They should have followed me, the smart guy.
Yeah.
I think their fears are probably something along the lines of, last year was woeful by our standards, and I feel like they pinned all their hopes on this year being different and rocking up and it just being different, or showing some signs of improvement, and they haven't. And there was a huge reaction. That's what got me, was as if they were sort of convincing themselves until after the first race that everything might be fine. And then after that first race, they were like, it's not fine, blah.
This has real... I feel like Toto Wolff's and Lewis Hamilton's reactions were real, like I told you so moments. I feel like Toto... It's almost like they had a few options through development last year. And Toto was like, seems pretty similar to what we've been doing now, and that hasn't been working. And they're like, no, we are making changes under the hood, that we really do believe in this concept, and it's going to work. You just need to be patient, and we've got all these cool new upgrades. And he's like, okay, but I feel like we could zag when we've been zigging. Why don't we zag? Why don't we try something different? And maybe they tried that, and maybe they did it in the background. But he has delegated responsibility to people who know Formula One cars and car design better than him, and he's probably been cynical, and then at the end of this race he's gone, I fucking told you guys that this wasn't enough, this wasn't revolutionary enough or whatever, and it wasn't good enough just to try to catch up to Red Bull. They needed to do something that was really going to go past them, and they're probably looking across the garages, across the paddock, at the team that they're supplying power units to, Aston Martin, and going, well, how come you guys can make it work so well? Why can't we're the manufacturing team? How come you? And look, they've got a cheat code. They've got Fernando Alonso. So yeah, I think that Toto seems most frustrated when he feels like the machine of Mercedes and all of their effort, all of their smart people, all of their resources are being deployed badly, because I think he knows that that's also his job to make sure that they're deployed in the right way. So I think anytime he's really frustrated outwardly, you can guarantee he's 10 times more frustrated inwardly at himself, disappointed. It's projection. He knows that he's failed. But do you think that's a fair reading of the sitch?
I think that's pretty fair. I think it's also surprising from a guy who has customarily kept his cool, except in the most egregious and most extreme circumstances.
Testing.
But I didn't see, I didn't see anything from this first race though that qualified. Like losing the championship at Abu Dhabi a few years ago in the circumstances they did. Fine, lose your shit then. That's okay. Fine, everyone will give you a pass on that. But you're meant to be like, gold star CEO, future brain, best manager in the world kind of material. And you just I don't know if he's diagnosed with anything or has RSD or something, but it just felt like he lost and he was like, God damn, fuck this shit. And he wanted to burn the whole world down. Too much. Yeah. Too much, Toto.
Yes.
There's the level of cope there is just at an all-time low.
But maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe they are out of ideas. And maybe they're just like, fuck, like Red Bull, all we had was that they cheated that little bit, and then we didn't nail them on that. No. And so, and their car's not illegal or anything. They're not doing anything really special. They're just really fast. Like, they are so fast on the straights, and they are like, it corners beautifully. And it's just another, I'm not going to say it's just Adrian Newey, you know, it's also the entire team. They're doing an excellent job.
Yes, everyone there's doing very well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it
there's
wasn't
two
just
possible...
a Max Verstappen masterclass either, right? Like, Sergio Perez also had a great race, which obviously means the car's fantastic.
Two avenues for a pivot there, to go continue down the Red Bull path or go to your new favorite sons, Aston Martin, whoever he is, some fellow, Ashley Martin, something like that. Do you want to talk about Aston Martin or Red Bull?
I want to talk about Aston Martin because people thought they were maybe catfishing, right? They had this good practice, these good testers, these good testings, and they've hired some really great people, and they've got lots of resources, and the car's all shiny, and people are like, but, you know, that's all usually fake flags, you know, like that's not anything, but you know what I mean? Like, they're false flags. Who knows? Like, we'll turn up on the weekend and Ferrari will be much faster than them, and Mercedes will have found something, and it's all going to be great and good. But no, it turns out that Aston Martin are genuinely that quick. And Fernando is great, and they've got, you know, and Lance isn't bad either. He's been in Formula One a long time now, Lance Stroll. Like, is this his 5th season or something? Like, he's been around for ages.
5th or 6th, yeah. A lot longer than you think.
Like, you know, he knows how to drive a Formula One car. I think he's okay.
He's done it, yes, he's okay.
Yeah.
And not even at full strength right now, which is kind of the scary thing, I suppose.
Yeah. So really, that's a pretty good performance for a car that has gone through a lot of changes. And Fernando also, like, he's only been in the car for a few months, really, and this is his first proper race scenario. And they look really good. And I think that's really good for the sport. I think it's really good for Ferrari, but I think it's actually, good for Formula One to have, like, for Ferrari to have another competitor. But they're also not quite good enough to catch Red Bull, which will just mean now that we'll end up, I think, with a lot of squabbling between Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Mercedes, and Red Bull will just win every race.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see where you're coming from. Obviously, Ferrari need to keep their eye on Red Bull and not have to worry about Aston Martin too much. Aston Martin obviously have other plans about that. But Ferrari, I think, we haven't seen them. Obviously, they let themselves down by being Ferrari at this race, but they're the ones who are the hope, I think. And Aston Martin are obviously they're a bit of an underdog right now. My question would be, sure, they were fast out of the blocks, Aston Martin, but are they going to still be there fighting for podiums at the end of the year? Or is this going to be a thing that we just see from, you know, their former entities in like Force Indias and other teams like that, who would come out in the first half of the year and be absolutely like outperforming, especially on budget, you know, the little budget they had, outperforming the car, and then by the middle of the season they're back in the midfield and you've forgotten about them.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. You know, you're right. A lot of teams have had that. You know, famously, Haas a few seasons ago had a great, you know, performance, you know, in Australia and, you know, a couple of early races. You're like, oh, maybe they kind of got something here that the other teams haven't quite caught on to yet. But I don't. But then they run out of money. Aston Martin are not having to go and put, you know, Lawrence Stroll in ads for B&Q or whatever, right? They are.
Please do that.
Yeah. He's advertising his own cranes. They're fine. They're fine for cash. They've got a really good team of designers and engineers and staff. Like, what else does and they're also not new to Formula One either. They've been a team now for a couple of years.
I'm hearing
what else needs to go in to be successful in Formula One?
It's true. Money. And I was going to get to that point. I'm hearing with Aston Martin, they're saying, not only do we have heaps of it, but there is a cost cap, but they're also saying, compared to where we could be, we've come in under the cost cap so far, so we can stretch our legs a little bit further even. So, I mean, we're all excited now. We're trying to keep a lid on that a little bit. But at the same time, looking ahead, this is what they're saying, because I'm asking this question, but they're saying that, you know, we have things to look forward to down the track. We will have packages where we'll be unlocking even more performance in this car. So that's promising, I think.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't we expect Aston Martin to be able to do what Red Bull did? You know, rich investors, assemble a great team of people who have been in Formula One for a really long time, get a great driver. Why not? Why are we sitting here like this isn't just the same? I'm sure there's lots of differences, I suppose, but on the face of it, for like the few levers you can actually pull in Formula One, having stable, strong leadership and a genuinely good team with a fast package and good resources, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good Formula One team. And the only thing letting them down is probably their PU. Imagine if they weren't supplied by Mercedes, maybe they'd be even better. I don't know. Nothing about their seasons, even running up to this too, really showed that they were like due for an implosion or anything. Is there any? There's nothing that really stands out. They don't really even have a lot of personality as a team either, which is probably not a bad thing because they're just quietly going about their good work.
And kind of famously been pinching people from Red Bull for quite a while now, to the degree that Cheeky Perez was dropping in like, oh, it's nice to see another Red Bull car, up there, like, because it's basically another car of ours.
Yeah, Sergio Perez with the personality. Who knew?
With the zingers.
Good for him. Yeah. And that's all fine. So other than the fact that Lance is probably not as good a driver as... isn't as good a driver as Sergio Perez and as Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr. That one might be one of the things that holds them back on a constructors' championship thing. But Alonso's great. Why wouldn't Alonso win a race this season? Red Bull could have a failure. That's the big blocker for me. Is that you look down these results and Max Verstappen. This was classic. Like dominant team scenario where after the first lap, he's a second and a half in front, and after 3 laps, he was gone. Like you didn't see him again. And after last season, I was like, oh yes, maybe we're on the right footing here. Maybe we're on the right trajectory. That this new formula has got the cars a little faster. There's no like major advantages, but obviously Red Bull have found some. They've got everything clicking beautifully. So I don't see where unless... Like Ferrari looked competitive, but not that competitive. It's not like there was no way, even before problems, that Charles wasn't catching up to Max, per lap or anything. They were done. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they should be thinking a little bit like Toto is and saying, well, we need a completely different way to go and track down Red Bull here because they got it right. And I know it's only one race. But they got it really, really, really right. So, yeah.
It's not just that they got it right, it's the form they're coming off as well. Coming out of last year where they set a record for race wins, it's like, well, and you've come out of the blocks and you've just shown everyone that you have not taken your foot off the gas one little bit. Every race, you're going for blood every single week. So, I mean, at least we know what Red Bull are going to be bringing to the table every week. There's a question mark, I guess, about... I feel like Aston Martin's form will be a little bit up and down. I feel like Mercedes will dial in whatever they can, perhaps later in the year, towards the middle of the year. And Ferrari, I mean, they went to water last year after showing a really promising start. But what can Ferrari do, basically? And you sort of expect them to, again, be challenging for pole positions. I mean, if you look at the record from last year, Leclerc took a ridiculous number of pole positions given where he finished in the championship and how dominant Max was, but maybe they can disrupt some things on qualifying, try and hang on in the race a little bit more. But I mean, if they're going to have reliability problems, then it's hard to get excited for the hopes of Ferrari. I don't know.
Yeah, well, as you were talking, I was looking up the starting grid and the qualifying times. It's just one race, but Charles Leclerc
exactly
is 0.3 off Max's qualifying pole time. And then that's the same distance to Fernando Alonso. And so Aston Martin will be like, yeah, we can qualify faster. But can they qualify a full half a second faster in the future? Probably. Fernando's probably still coming to grips with that car. But I think we learned this last season too. There's a massive delta between qualifying pace and race pace.
True.
And I think that, funnily enough, that's continually where Ferrari have struggled, and maybe that is where Aston Martin are strong, is that Aston Martin might not be the quickest car around one lap, but based on the little bit of evidence we've had so far, they had good testing too, that they might have it over Ferrari for this next little period. Because, Fernando's also a very, 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 very good driver. That's the other thing. Like, he gives great feedback. He knows how to look after his tyres. He great overtakes this weekend. Like, there was good racing that Fernando provided as well.
The overtake on Hamilton was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, you got this guy who's just racing because he loves it. Yeah, here's this guy. Here's this smart driver who's excellent. And has something to prove, I think, still as well.
Oh, yeah,
and
big time.
Has maybe found his team. They love him. He loves being like the king of that team. And it's a good car. That's a great formula for success for Fernando. So I'm hoping he gets in and amongst the pigeons. I hope he can, win a couple of races. But yeah, it's not looking great up the front of the grid, I would say, at this point. Is there anything, slightly lower down the grid? We had difference. We had. Did you see what Zach Brown was saying about Oscar Piastri post race? Like, I think we've seen enough of Oscar. We know he's going to be. He's incredible. It's like he raced for about 4 minutes, and then all the electrics on his car broke. I don't know if there was enough there necessarily to say that there's a world champion inside that guy's body.
Oh, he's Mr. Hype, isn't he? I mean, he sells. I mean, every year, no matter who the drivers are, Zach Brown's always going, we've got the most talented, dynamic driver line.
We've got the best lineup every time.
Jaime Alguersuari and Sebastian Buemi, and he'd be like, yeah, we've got the most dynamic driver lineup in Formula One.
They're playing Coachella this year, those two, actually. They're the new Daft Punk.
Yeah, every night they alternate who's supporting and who's the main act.
Yeah. Do you have any strong feelings on Oscar? Are you full-blooded? He's Australian. We're Australian. We are Australia. Vibes yet?
The thing is, I don't know yet. I mean, I hope he's good. And I think I said this last time, there's a question mark over him. But I mean, I hope he's good. I wish him well. I want to see him do well. I want to see what he can do because I haven't seen yet. And everyone will be like, oh, but he blitzed it in this and he blitzed it in that. Like, yeah, okay. But like, we've seen drivers do that and get to F1 and do nothing. So just want to see what he can do. And I hope I hope McLaren can give him a car that doesn't fall into pieces like that. Maybe buy some batteries that aren't from like Dick Smith or something. That would be good. Get a proper, maybe put that car together.
Does Dick Smith still exist?
It's owned by Kogan.
Oh.
So it's basically a shell for Kogan now. Yeah. Sad times.
That's nice for Kogan.
I guess so.
One thing we didn't mention while we're talking about Aston Martin is that on the opening lap, Lance Stroll drove into Fernando Alonso. Which
hilarious! And the commentary that was like, when Fernando sees this back, he won't even be mad because he was trying to cut back across, and it was like, he'll be very mad. He'll be
very angry.
There's a reason they're not telling him. There's a reason they're not telling him why the name of the driver that hit him. And I mean, you might remember he's in front of the other guy, and the other guy hit him from behind. So there's none of this crap about he's weaving his turn, he's changing line. Like no, he hit him.
Lance didn't brake enough for the corner.
No,
it was like, oh no.
Yeah, no. And if you have a minute, so another thing about Ferrari, which we need to do this, and I need to turn the podcast into a different podcast that plays clips for a second, because they made a great start, and you probably remember Sergio Perez was second or third, and the two Ferraris kind of just like ambushed him at the start because his start was so poor. And I was watching after the race, Ted Kravitz, who, talk about someone that someone needs to check on. Everyone needs to check on Ted Kravitz. But he said this about the Ferrari. I just want you to just have a close listen and see if you pick up what I picked up.
Sergio Perez got challenged off the start and lost out to the fast starting Charles Leclerc on the new soft tyre. That was Ferrari's plan, and it worked.
So Charles Leclerc, what was he doing?
Fast starting.
He was doing... Sorry, what was he doing?
Fast starting.
Oh, he was fast shouting. Fast shouting with Charles Leclerc. And what Chico Perez was
fast
doing?
shouting.
He was fast shouting as well. Both of them was fast shouting well. And then what happened when they were both fast shouting?
Both went soft, hard.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that when that happens. That's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's how it goes when you're fast shouting.
Fast shouting.
Fast shouting.
soft, hard. It tends to be. Oh, my God.
Both of them.
Well, where did you pick that up from? Is that
fast shouting?
I just have the ears for it. Look, I'm born with it, okay?
Ted Kravitz. There's a man who I think deserves more of a profile from Drive to Survive. I think that's unfair that all these other people are getting a big profile and that Drive to Survive is not celebrated. Man of the people, Paddock Walker, Ted Fast-Shouting Kravitz.
He said he was missing Vettel and missing Danny Rick. And it's like, he's like, yeah, I know Danny Rick is still around, but he won't be in Drive to Survive. I was like, well, that's not how that works. Though. He's around. You're saying you're missing him, but he's still there. Well, apparently he'll be in Australia, but I don't know. I don't know. Someone please check on Ted Kravitz.
Fast-shouting.
What do you want to move on to, please? Get us away from this.
There was a lot of chat this weekend. I watched the race with a couple of friends of mine. Shout out to the Clissold Park Tavern, who had a lovely booth set up outdoors with heaters and stuff, and kindly put the Formula One on one of their TVs and turned it up to max, which was almost too loud for us to be able to talk over, but it was still lovely. So if you live in the area and you're looking for a place to watch Formula One or have a drink, Clissold Park Tavern, delicious pizzas too.
There you go.
Not sponsoring the show, just they're nice. The chat, and a question I would like to pose to you, Rod, is that they were like, oh, but, Daniel Ricciardo's still around Formula One. He's the Red Bull test driver. He'll be there this weekend. I was like, I don't think he would be, actually.
No, I don't think he was.
I don't think any of the test drivers will be there. I don't think really anybody else. And it's just like, and this happens, right? That the test drivers aren't even often the reserve or backup driver for teams. That's why Nico Hülkenberg had to race for everybody, because he was the guy who had a super license, who was like a practiced form. He was the freelance. You just pull in at any moment. I heard he was even hosting Match of the Day this week. So he, I don't think Daniel Ricciardo was there. And then there was some chat of like, do you think would he watch the race? And I wondered about that, and I wanted to get your opinion on that. Do you think Daniel Ricciardo watched the Bahrain Grand Prix live?
I think he... Oh, boy. He definitely would have to watch it. Whether he watched it live, it depends how deep the wounds are, right? Is he still licking them, or have they healed over? Because, if they have, sure, I reckon he probably watched it. If he knows he has to watch it anyway, does he still just watch it?
Does he have to watch it? Why does he? Let me ask it. Why does he have to watch it?
Well, he's still involved with the team. It's not like he's not involved. He still has to be aware of what happened, and probably is invested to a degree in the success of the team that he's part of, and being paid a lot of money.
Listen to this show,
to be
Daniel.
There. Well, there you go.
Listen to Super License. You don't have to watch the race.
Please suggest that to Daniel. That we will keep him up to date. Don't even worry about it, bro.
Fast-shouting.
So that's all you need to know. And
stop it.
Would he... This is why I'm not allowed to play clips, because I just overdo it. Would he watch it? I think he would watch the replay. I don't think he would watch it live. And he would watch it the same day, but he wouldn't watch it live, I don't think. That's my take.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably somewhere in the US on a dirt bike, and then he watched it a little bit later on 1.75 speed.
Could be.
My last question, Rod, before we move on, or maybe you've got something as well, but I just want to know, what about the rest of the race, the overall glow, vibe, feel? Was it a good race?
I think it's got it's got an awful lot of the first race jitters about it. Teams retiring cars and, rookie drivers not getting a chance to even finish a couple of laps and all the rest of it. So, F1 takes its usual uncertain first steps of a season. We'll be purring along in just a few races, but overall vibes. Generally mixed. Pleased for Aston Martin. Disappointed to see Red Bull blitzing it away again. Not disappointed. They've earned the success, but also, boy, I'd love to see some other drivers winning races, and just hoping that Ferrari can hold it together.
Yeah. So next, I think that I agree.
Williams is a good story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One driver in the points, another driver not far off on debut. Pretty good start.
That is true, and we do like Alexander Albon. I have no strong feelings on Logan Sargent, no. Other than he's the roasted. Worst of the... What? We got roasted?
We got roasted in the Discord. Hang on a second. This is what it says. This is from Matthew. Pretty confused by your characterization of Logan Sargent as a pay driver, the driver whose story involves narrowly losing to Piastri in F3, not having the funds to go to F2, getting a late deal done for another season in F3 with a backmarker team, winning races with said team, then Williams picking him up and helping him go to F2. I was like, well, that all may be true. He sure has a whole bunch of money that he used to get the seat, though. So we'll see. If he underperforms and he's there for his money, then kind of fits the bill of a pay driver. But we'll see. He has to keep driving well.
Yeah, that's it. You know, fair
too
enough,
early to call.
Too early to call, but we can call on the fact that he's got a lot of money. But you know, whether they were willing at that moment to put money into him, you know, got it back. You know, some teams don't want pay drivers, so you know. That's how it goes too. But Williams definitely does.
I feel like...
Happy for Albon.
I was going to say, I know that I know you, that's a change of subject, but I just wanted to say that it feels to me in this weird way, and I've tried Googling a lot about Logan Sargent and his finances and his backers. It feels to me like because he's a US driver and the only US driver at the moment and the first one for a long, long time, that they're trying to, like, don't talk about the finances. Because I think they want to keep a lid. I think, you know, Formula One and their cronies, their owners, their corporate overlords want to keep a lid on this idea that he might only be there for his money. I really think they're trying to stamp down that story. So I think that I mean, there's definitely a few leaks here and there. Like Williams are not out of any money. They've lost Latifi, but they've more than covered it with the money that this guy's bringing in.
You are right.
But it's hard to find those details. I'm chasing them down though.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe we'll ask some of our genuine Formula One.
Maybe we could do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Sniffer dogs.
Let's do that. Alexander Albon.
Look, you know, it does sometimes smack a little bit of. Look, sometimes the pay driver stuff. You know, you can look at someone's driving record and be like, "Wow, they really did have to." Yeah, look, you can't just buy your way into Formula One because, like, you're straight into Formula One from nothing. You can't be like, "Oh, I'm just a billionaire's child." And I'm 20 and I just want to be a Formula One driver. It's like, it doesn't work like that. You have to go and get your super license points. No team wants to just gamble on anyone. That being said, Haas did do that with Mazepin. They essentially just did that. He was just a guy who wasn't very good, who had like got a lot of, got a little bit of success because he'd been racing his entire life, but they just needed the money. And they got him and they rebranded the whole team around him and the family and the country, and it blew up in their faces because he was really, really bad.
They get shown out.
It's not binary, like pay driver or not. It could be argued that, you know, look at Sergio Perez is very open about his links to Carlos Slim and how he wanted to be a Mexican Formula One driver, not Carlos Slim. You know, Sergio Perez needed
every
money.
Time we
Alex Albon talked about this too. You know, yeah, and Alex Albon did this too with, you know, nationality of Thailand. Like he was like, I want to be a Thai driver and I need funding for that. So, you know, and so there's always give and take unless you are absolutely excellent. And Formula One and being a race car driver does cost a lot of money to do it at the highest level. It's you know, very much a wealthy person's sport, unfortunately. But I think in the case of someone like Logan Sargent, I think that, like you said, you can like Formula One overall has always played down the pay driver stuff. They don't really want anybody to think about that because it should be the pinnacle of racing. These are the best 20 drivers in the world. Now, no one actually thinks that, but it is the way that the sport is positioned. That it's like these guys, these are the best in show. This is currently all of the best drivers in the world. And we know that's not the case, but I think there is also a bit of the, you know, in especially in the arts, but in movies, you get a lot of actors who change their names when they're young because they have very, very, very famous parents.
Oh, right.
And they're like, none of my success is down to that. I had to I went to auditions. I had to craft my entire career separately from my famous father director. It's like, did you though? Or did you just happen to know every single person in the industry already? And, you know, we're talking about a Formula One that has literally, the guy's dad owns a team. Like, that is why Lance Stroll is in Formula One. Now, it might be that his father is in Formula One because his son happens to be an okay driver. So, you know, if Lance Stroll wasn't into Formula One, would Lawrence have bought a Formula One team for his son to drive in? Probably not. It's not a good investment, a Formula One team. However, that's just the way our sport works, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're all a bunch of Nepo babies, aren't they?
Yep. And even the ones that aren't pay drivers, their dads are drivers. Nico Rosberg, Carlos Sainz Jr., Carlos Sainz Sr., like these are all Max Verstappen. You go down the list.
What we could say is we hope that Logan Sargent and a whole bunch of other drivers after the first round get a chance to show us what they're made of. And if he's not a pre driver, he can show us that.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Exactly.
Do you want to do a super quiz?
Wrong. Logan? Yeah, man.
Boom.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
Big button on my computer. Fastsharting.m4a. I'm not going to hit it. I won't. I won't hit it.
Do you think we'll end up with like podcasting Nepo babies? Like this is Seth Rogen's child.
Wow.
You're only a famous podcaster because your dad was a famous podcaster.
Yeah. I know it says here that your name is John Smith. Is your name really John Smith or is it John Glass? Yes, Ira Glass is my dad. Oh.
But I went through all the normal things. I started up a youth radio network when I was at university. It just so happened that funding did come from PBS, or PRX or whatever.
Took a year off to podcast around India after college. We're doing a super quiz here.
Microphones around.
That's it. I just podcast wherever I happen to be. It's just in my blood. So following the success of Fernando Alonso's surprise, I'm calling it a surprise, opening podium for this year, we're doing the surprise season opener podcast super quiz. So most of these are podium related, but what I thought I'd do is go through the last, 10 years or so, roughly, and look for all the opening rounds, look for any surprises that were there on the podium, and I've crafted a little quiz about it. And I say little, this is just first race of the season, kind of gently getting into it with 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. So the other question that I have for you is I've crafted these in chronological order, going from oldest to newest, but you have a choice if you wish to reverse that order. We can go oldest to newest or newest to oldest. What do you reckon? What do you feel like?
I think oldest to newest is the
all right, we can do that. Here is question the number 1. You ready?
Yes.
Opening round 2013. A few precious weeks before this little podcast started, there was a surprise victor at the season opening Australian Grand Prix. I say surprising in the sense that it was the only time that season that driver or that team won a race. 2013 Australian Grand Prix. Zach, I want you to tell me who it was and the team that they drove for.
Surprise victor 2013. 2013. That's a good year for Formula One driving. There's a lot of world champs on that grid at that point as well. That's why we started the show, I think, because we had 6 winners in 6 races that season, I want to say, in the first 6 races. Was it Fernando Alonso?
It was not. Do you want another clue?
Yeah, give me another clue.
It was another former world champion.
Was it Kimi Räikkönen?
Yes, KFR. Yes, correct. Do you know the team?
Yes. Oh, who did he come back for? Didn't he come back to Renault? Lotus?
Yeah, Lotus. That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Oh.
I remember because I was a big
car
Kimi
as well, the black and gold. Oh.
Yeah, it was a good looking car. I just remember because it was 2 races before we started doing the show, and then I had to wait until one of his last races for Ferrari before he won again, 8 years later, and I was like, oh, come on, man. It was a long wait. Anyway, KFR for Lotus, correct. Next question the number 2. 2014 Australian Grand Prix was notable for Daniel Ricciardo standing on the podium before being later disqualified. But I want you to tell me, Zach, which other driver in this surprising season opener podium, what other driver was standing there? A rookie driver who stood on the podium right next to Daniel that day.
Oh, God, I can remember. God, I remember where we were.
We were on the track looking up at the podium. We were there, bro.
Yeah. Fuck. Who was it? 2014. God, that's a long time ago. Rookie driver.
A rookie then, still on the
still on the grid
right now.
Days.
Yes, but on debut on the podium.
Oh, Kevin Magnussen?
Yeah, Kevin Magnussen. That's right.
And those silver McLarens, right?
Yes, third promoted to second. Thank you very much. And Jenson Button dragged his ass onto the podium after the
sweet
disqualification. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, yep.
You're doing so well. Okay, in 2019, an utterly dominant win by this driver caught some off guard as he announced the beginning of his 2.0 phase. Who was it?
His 2.0 phase. Was it Sebastian Vettel?
No.
No? 2.0 phase. That's really thrown me, the 2.0 phase.
I thought they gave it away. Everyone's screaming at their headphones.
I know. 2019. And they won the race.
He won the race, yes. Dominated it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a dominating drive.
Oh, God. Pierre Gasly?
No, this one is Mr. VB, Valtteri Bottas.
Oh,
Valtteri Bottas 2.0.
Oh, God, I've so
Chav about
forgotten
town
that he won races.
Well,
like,
that's
in my
the
mind,
thing.
Valtteri Bottas will always be the guy who never won a race.
That's the thing. He won in Melbourne, and he was like, "Yeah, I win races. Get used to it." And then it didn't really happen much after that.
No. And then it was like, could you move over? Look,
was a surprise that he won that race. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like this with Sergio Perez as well, right? If one of those cars from that team looks good, then the better driver at that team is more likely to win that race. Like, if they're having a good weekend, then the guy who's really good is probably going to win.
You're right. Well, this last question is worth 10 points, so you've got it, you can win it all back here. The 2020. I was going to call it 2020. 2020, as we were navigating a possible Formula One season during the pandemic restrictions, there was a surprise at the season opener of Australia in that it was cancelled. So the question, Zach, is what was this opening round surprise? Where was the first race actually held? Not in Australia, but where was it actually held?
Where did they hold the opener? They moved it away.
Well, it came like 5 months later.
Yeah. It must have been in Europe then, I'm guessing. The season opener, I'm going to say...
Only 2.5 years ago.
Yes, I know. Was it Spa?
No, not Spa.
Am I close?
Bit more like Australia, or sounding anyway.
Oh, Austria.
It was in Austria for the Red Bull Ring. Yes, this is how we got the Austrian Grand Prix and the whatever the other one was called.
The Styrian Grand Prix.
Styrian Grand Prix back to back.
Why isn't the quiz on all the names of the Austrian Grand Prix?
Well, because I couldn't shoehorn that into the concept, which was opening rounds. If I could have, I would have done that one where we raced in Bahrain on the two different tracks. So that was in contention. I was like, can I pivot here? No, I'll stick with this.
Oh, yeah, they just reversed the track, didn't they?
Well, they were like, there's a whole other line that you could just take that goes around the back bit. It's a bit dusty, but like we'll clean it off. And they were like, sweet, we can call that a whole other Grand Prix. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
That was back when they were scrambling to get to a certain number to make the season even real.
Yeah. And
anyways,
now we're stuck with races that are in car parks.
Awesome. You love to see
not
it.
Even
Bring
scrambling.
on.
Yeah. Nice
Bring
one.
it on wherever.
Good.
Well, it's a super quiz, and you got B out of 7, so well done.
That's what I was shooting for, really.
That's
Surprise podium,
par.
I would say, for the first quiz of the season for me.
Don't hit the fast charting button again, Rod.
Don't
hit it.
do it, Rod.
What else are we going to do? Fantasy? You want to look at fantasy?
Yeah. I've got fantasy up right now.
Oh, fantastic.
So for the league, and there's only been one race, right? So it's the same
True.
race, same league. First round. There's some familiar names on here, Rod. In first place, Hawk Moon Racing with a mere 240 points. That is so many points. Like, you got everything right. Did you just go, you know what, I'm going to spend all my money on the 3 Red Bull things that I can buy, and then the rest you've hacked the matrix and managed to put in as does not have anything. Well done, Manager James Ward. In second place, Why Can't I Beat My Bro? Turns out you can, unless your bro is James Ward. Emerson S. O'Donnell, well done. And then... coming in third, and third is actually shared by 3 teams: Team Blue and Gold, We Racers Porpoises, and Hasta la Vista Shumi, all on 204 points. So, as we say every week, Rod, sort of play for, I would say.
I would say so. Let's find us.
Where are you, Rod? I know where I am.
Yeah, okay. Let's find. I believe I am equal 27th. So True Racing.
Oh, I'm 36.
173. You're where?
I looked at 36 and I was like, 36. I was like, that's probably halfway down. But it's 36. In a lower... It's low on 160 points. I thought I picked a good team, but then it turns out that some of my guys, not so good.
I feel like everybody thought that. I say we just we don't need to check back in on fantasy for a while. Let's just close that tab. Well done. Mm-hmm. Speaking of tabs open, though, Zach, you still got that tab open there?
Yeah, which one?
You're about to expose something Formula One related to our listening audience, because if they've listened this far, they deserve an expose. One of our trademark
F1
exposés.
Unlocked. Yeah,
F1 Unlocked. What the F1 is F1 Unlocked?
Now, I thought it was going to be all crypto because the branding, I don't know, everything in the world right now has this weird Tron-like vibe to it. Everything's
I said to you, yeah, the neon grid is like sus as. It's
neon grid, everything's like weird shades of colours that are, just, I don't know. It's all happening in the metaverse, but this isn't. But it looks like it is, but it's not. If you've just got a Formula1.com or F1.com membership, or have subscribed in any way, if you've given your personal details to Formula One, they know you, and you can log in and get access to the unseen, unheard F1 Unlocked. It doesn't start well because the main picture is old mate Will Buxton talking to a beautifully headed of hair Pierre Gasly. Then there's just having a laugh.
Is that photoshopped or not? What do you reckon?
You don't think he's actually talking to him? It looks like it could have been made by Stable Diffusion. It's weird. It could go either way, and there's the grid thing in the background, as if get it? This is photoshopped. I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know about this one. Yeah.
And plus, what are they looking at? Because this is meant to be like your view behind the scenes, and yet these two jokers in this photo are looking at something else. I'm like, well, I want to see that. That's what I signed up to F1 Unlocked for. How do I get F1 Unlocked behind the scenes unlocked?
Well, I'm watching the video now, but basically you get unrivaled rewards and experiences, but I think that what they want you to do is just sign up and then they can send you discount codes so you go and buy merch. I think that's basically all it is.
It's a timeshare of some description.
Yeah, it is. It's not crypto oriented, but it seems crypto adjacent. So just watch yourselves out there. Be safe out there, team. If you're going to sign up to get unlock epic rewards, and there's more to unlock. Unlocking soon is at-track prizes, which, okay, and you're invited to what? Virtual fan events. That feels like you're going to be given an NFT and you're going to have to use that to get in. So yeah, as I said, be safe out there.
This landing page is full of promise, and then at the bottom it says, F1 Unlocked has just begun. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're not done. Buckle up. We'll be unlocking even more in 2023. Can you believe there's even more than this? Actually, I'm calling it now. I don't think there is more than this. I think there's exactly this, and that's about it.
This is what Ferrari are currently telling their own team. We've got more to come, guys. We've got to unlock more. There's bits of the stuff we haven't even used yet.
You think that's a grid? Wait till you see our real grid. Maybe we need to throw this grid in the bin and build a new grid.
I am an Unlocked member already. Good for them.
Can't wait for this.
A lot of funny sponsors that I don't know. Classic. All right. Well.
There you go. Well. Last little, yes. Go on.
Last little bit. Go on.
Last little bit. I just threw it out there. Anyone got any questions before we record this episode? Got a couple. Well, one's a long-standing one and a new one. These are, I believe, from Fleuge, for our friend in the Discord.
Great.
Fleuge.
Love Fleuge.
Which races will Max not win this year? So I think there's an assumption there. He's going to win a whole bunch of races. Which ones is he not going to win? Do you want to go first?
Yep. The first one that jumps to mind always is Singapore, because there was that one time that the dominant team didn't win, and it's stuck in my mind. That was like, yeah, that's the race that everyone, all the up-and-comers can find a way to win. You've got to be crafty to win Singapore. That's the one I can think of. What about you?
I'm going to say Max wins every race except for the Austrian Grand Prix and the Dutch Grand Prix. Let's go with that.
That sucks.
That's going to sting.
You know what? Yeah, he'll be angry about that.
Well, he should have driven better at those races.
Yeah, that's true.
Won them.
Well, do you think George Russell will win a race this year? And if so, which one?
I'm going to say no and NA.
I'll say that, George. That sucks.
Sorry, mate. What a punch in the face to you. That's just
he'll leave for Mercedes before Lewis Hamilton does. I could see that happening. That's my hot take for the next 5 years. I think Lewis Hamilton's going to be there for a while. And I think that they will fire George Russell before Lewis Hamilton is gone. Anyway, that's if Lewis Hamilton doesn't take next season off because the car's no good. He'll be like, call me when it's good, and then I'll come back. Over to you, George. You can sort this shit out, and then give me a buzz when it's fast again. This second question, Rod, having listened to the Patreon feed podcast, I was wondering how you do the "oh yeah" during the outro music, since we don't hear the music, or do you just have the timing down so well that you can just know when to say it?
I mean,
I thought about the fact that if you subscribe on Patreon, you get the show, you get the raw cut, right? Yeah. Not even a cut. You just get the whatever comes out the tubes.
Yes. This week it may have a 10-minute discussion of Jaime Alguersuari as well. I may put that at the end or something.
Yeah. So I would say, as the person who does a bit of the editing on this show, the timing is actually very good.
I would say every time when we have to say it, we're just called, like the muses call, and we just rip it. We rip it hard, and then it's always in the right spot.
Yep. There is a little bit of, like, real talk. I am quite gleeful when I don't really have to move it very much in the edit, when I don't have to move because what I try to do is the outro music, there's a
spot in the music.
There's a spot in the music where the guy goes, oh yeah, thanks to Trumpet. He goes, Warrior. But there is a bit of that outro music that peaks, and I like
right before.
And I like my bye to be on the of the music, or right like around there. Is usually
you're doing it right.
And then there is a little bit of music, and then there's the oh yeah, and so usually we're pretty close. But if it's right on it, I'm like, oh, fucking nailed it this week.
It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Like when you go and do a poo and it just comes straight out, you don't even have to wipe. It's just like, it's your day.
Why?
Fast charting. I can't click it fast enough. Fast charting. Where is it? Here it
fast
is.
charting.
All right. We can wrap up the show now. So thank you, patrons, who will be listening to this early, as well as getting the raw cut where you hear us fumble around for the timing to hit the oh yeah. You can listen. You can subscribe to Patreon if you want. You just go to superlicense.fm. Zach, the FM stands for?
Fast.
There's that. Fast Marting. Go to the website. You can get a link there to the Patreon, or just click on the Twitter. Or there's 100 million ways to find it. But if you want to sign up, there's never been a better time. I always say this: never been a better time to sign up, and you can get early access to all of the shows there, as including the aforementioned raw cut. So you're even getting stuff that people don't normally hear. Yeah, well, look, I mean, we're going to be around the Discord. I'm determined to make the Discord a bit more lively this year, so I'm going to be in there doing some stuff. Y'all better just get used to that. This is Discord 2.0, if you know what I'm saying. And is there anything else you can do? Oh, if you want to send us an email, just send us a bloody email, mate. Just do it. Just find the email address and just send it. Pretty sure it's superlicencepodcast@gmail.com.
@gmail.com.
Could be a question, could be an F1 dream, could be an
F1
complaint.
Dream. Or an F1 complaint. You send them to us. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that?
Why is the Red Bull
Liberty Media
so dominant? Well, mate, I can only do so much about that.
Here we go.
But look, it's so nice to hear from you.
Why are the cars so shiny at these night races?
I hope this email finds you well. When will Lewis be champion again? Signed, Lewis Hamilton.
You know, I have one reflection on the Bahrain race, right, that we can talk about, which is that
now's the great time to bring it up.
Races, yeah, I know. I think these races in some of these Gulf states like being night races because they can really hide the fact that there's no one there. There's like one grandstand with fans in it, and then there are no other stands, and there's no other. They're just in the middle of nothing, in like an arid zone where there's nothing around, and it suits them because it's nighttime. You don't have to look at anything. Look, there's nothing around here. It's just a car racing track. There's no.
It disguises the whole tax write-off vibe of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It really takes the shine off the sports washing.
Exactly. As much as I love to boycott the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, like Bahrain would be next on the list, maybe.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure we will see Aramco just announced a new sponsorship with somebody else as well. They sponsor the sport. Wonderful. They sponsor the team. One of the teams. There will be a Saudi pay driver in a Formula One team, if not next season, the season after. So look out for it.
don't look out for that. One thing to look out for, though, is 10 years of Super License coming up very soon. We'll do something special for that. I've been sowing the seeds with Zach about trying to do some kind of live stream video thing or something, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Getting no traction there, but we'll see.
Yeah. As long as the blurred background is on my camera, I'm all good.
Low key on the down low. This idea in my mind is growing about doing a video live stream before the races when the time zone works, because like during the race or after the race gets too late for me. But then I'm like, before the race though, quick little half an hour. I'll look at this dumb stuff and you can do it as a video live stream. It'd be fun. Anyway, something to think
talk about how people qualified, what we think is going to happen, some predictions. Maybe we could pick, pole win in 10th, something like that. Who knows?
Maybe. We'll see. Well, maybe we could do some kind of a test run at some point for some whiz-bang software. And again, depending on whether or not you're at the pub, if you're just sitting at home doing nothing, sure, jump on. If you're at the pub or you're traveling or whatever, then that's going to be out of the question. But anyway, this is an idea that may fester. It may go nowhere. You've come to know and love that from us over the years. So we're here to deliver.
I love that neither of those outcomes are positive. Fester or nowhere. Not flourish, but fester or nowhere. Terrific.
The idea may grow and spread like a tumor, or it may sink like some kind of a whirlpool.
Okay, great.
One of those two. Either way, I think that's the end of the show. My brain is really shutting down, so we better wrap it up before I say something super dodge. Until next time we record, which who knows what we'll be talking about. My name has been Rod.
My name's been Zach. Sorry, caught me mid-yawn there. Wow. Okay.
You put me to do the whole show again now.
No, never. We never do the whole show again. You've been recording, right? Yeah, my name's been Zach.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
Too early.
Too early.